Is this Kevin?
Yeah, sure is.
I'm Chris, and I'm an AI-powered voice assistant with PropertyBots.ai. Would you like to run a quick live demo to see what I can do?
Yeah, let's do it.
At PropertyBots.ai, we help real estate pros quickly integrate custom, done-for-you AI solutions into their sales funnels to drive serious revenue. Before we get started, can you do me a favor and verify your first and last name for me?
Yeah, it's Kevin Brenner.
Thanks, Kevin. Just a heads up, if at any time you'd like to be transferred to one of my human teammates, just let me know. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
Awesome. And what's the name of your business, Kevin?
It's PropertyBots.
Got it. So you're calling about integrating AI solutions into PropertyBots?
Yeah.
In a few words, can you describe what product or service you provide your clients?
We buy houses for cash, and then we wholesale them.
Perfect. Your company buys houses for cash and wholesales them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And what's your role or title within PropertyBots? Are you us, or do you have a fancy title like Chief House Whisperer?
No, I'm the boss.
Great to meet the boss. Now, what's one qualifying question that you would ask a new lead interested in your business?
Why do you want to sell your house now?
Why do you want to sell your house now is a solid question. It helps you understand the urgency and motivation behind the lead's decision, which can guide your approach. Now, what's another qualifying question that you would ask a new lead?
How much do you think your house is worth?
How much do you think your house is worth is a great question. It gives you insight into the lead's expectations and helps you gauge if their price aligns with your buying strategy. Now, what's one more qualifying question that would help you close a new lead in your business?
Have you made any repairs in the last 5 years?
Awesome, Kevin. I think I have everything I need. Would you be interested in running a quick live demo where I'll act as an AI voice agent for bots and try to get you to book an appointment?
Yeah, let's run the demo.
Excellent. Here's how this will work. I'll act as an AI voice agent for your business, and you pretend that you're an interested lead calling in to find out more information. Sound like a plan?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's kick this thing off. Hi there. Thanks for calling PropertyBots. How may I help you today?
I got a flyer in the mail, and I want to sell my house.
Perfect. We can definitely help. Is it okay if I ask you a few quick questions?
Yeah, sure.
Great. So why do you want to sell your house now?
It's an inherited property, and the tenants just destroyed it. I think they were meth heads. I don't know.
Got it. Inherited properties can be tricky. Now, how much do you think your house is worth?
Maybe $200,000.
Thanks for sharing that. Now, have you made repairs in the last 5 years?
No, it's really torn up. I think it needs everything.
Thanks for sharing that. It sounds like we can definitely help you out. The next step is to get you booked on an appointment. How does tomorrow at 2 p.m. sound?
Sounds great.
Okay, Kevin, that's a wrap on our demo. What are your thoughts on how I...
Yeah, so then it's gonna try to get you the book. Yeah.
Bro, PropertyBots.ai. What? Dude, welcome to the show, Kevin Brenner. Oh my goodness. Kevin, it's good to have you here. I'm excited for people to get to know you and what you're building. I have so many questions about this topic, this AI topic, and specifically about real estate. But I also know that you've gone through a lot of different chapters in your life to end here. For someone that has no idea about you, that doesn't know your backstory, can you give us a couple cliff notes as to how you ended here?
Yeah, man. Appreciate you bringing me on the show. I'm really hoping that your listeners get a lot out of this. And it's kind of one of those topics. You and I were talking pre-show. It's kind of one of those topics. You're like, oh man, this is a big scary monster under the bed that's AI, and no one really knows what to do with it. So let's just forget about it and keep it under the bed. But we're going to debunk a lot of that today. But yeah. High level, man. I was in the Air Force for just under 10 years active duty, and I was, believe it or not, I was a meteorologist. I wanted to be a pilot, and that didn't work out because the Air Force needed meteorologists the year I graduated, and so be it. The Air Force it giveth and taketh away. That was kind of a common theme of my military career. And 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 honestly, it was the thing that kind of drove me towards real estate. But my last gig, if you will, in the Air Force, I was at the Pentagon, and I was briefing kind of the top Air Force brass, sometimes even the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and everything on global weather patterns and impacts to operations around the world. And it was kind of cool. I was in the room when they were making these decisions and having these high level conversations, and that was kind of neat. Yeah, I got, even before then, I had already started, purchasing real estate as investment properties and collecting, passive income and doing all of that stuff. And I had learned just in my career, specifically in weather and in the Air Force and as an officer, it's very, you don't go against the grain. You go with the fish, right? Like, and you're capped at certain, like, your rank is your pay, and that's what you get. And then you get promoted like 3 or 5 years later, and then you get promoted. And, if you keep doing the right things, it's very on track. And I'm a very like not that type of way. So it was a little bit ironic for me to be in the military to be like, oh yeah, I don't like being told what to do. But, I enjoy the structure, and it helped shape me. And so I started buying real estate, and before the Pentagon, I was in Savannah, Georgia, started buying quadplexes, and then when I got to DC, I was doing Airbnbs and kind of just building up these little side businesses while I was serving. And that kind of bled into my time with how we met with active duty passive income, which was an awesome experience. I started there kind of creating content and finished my time there as the VP of sales, and did everything, did the podcast and director of marketing and all of that. But that helped really. I mean, I was building a company, so hiring people, firing people, creating marketing material, everything from lead generation to qualification to all of this, in just, running on a remote company. And we grew it to 7 figures, and it's still going strong today. And, during that time is when I started playing around with AI.
In the transition from active duty to active duty passive income, there's a lot of life change. So you go through that dramatic change, and now you're running something completely different, right? AI is like your world right now from the outside looking in. Has it felt like a big dramatic chapter change there as well?
Yeah, no, it has, and you hear all these stories. If you have veterans listen, they'll know. If you're not a vet, you hear these stories about, like, man, leaving the service, especially after active duty, it's really hard. And it was a really hard transition, because you have to think about it. It's like, for all of my adult professional life, everything was planned for me. Every single thing, like everything. Where am I going to live? What am I going to do for work? Like, who am I going to hang out with, pretty much, because they say you can't hang out with these people, you can't hang out with these people. Who's going to cover my health care? Like, all of these things, it's all there. And then you kind of just, you leave active duty, and the VA, the Department of Veterans Affairs, sends you like 200 emails and be like, here are all your benefits, goodbye. I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Let me read through all these 200 emails. Yeah. But yeah, I was able to transition into that company, active duty passive income, and it was all, my military friends, and we were speaking the same language. So that was a relatively, smoother than most, than going into, straight unrelated workforce. And it was still difficult. And you have all of the trauma that the military, brings with it, and that doesn't go away. So, sometimes you struggle with that, but I think ultimately it was a great move for me, because I saw that there was a ceiling in my life, and I knew that, I could, maybe retire as a lieutenant colonel or something like that, and, collect a pension and all that, but that wasn't for me. I knew that my life was, I have a greater calling, and not that there's anything wrong with, serving. It's like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, it just wasn't, it wasn't my calling. So I had to do something different.
I love that, man. You could see something for you that wasn't aligned with where you were.
Yeah. Yeah,
go
pretty
through
much.
the exit.
I don't think I was smart enough at the time to like put it in words, but
Yeah.
it was just like, it's like, do I really want to do this? And then, and then real estate hit me like a ton of bricks, man. And then it was like, oh, wow, a pathway out,
Yeah.
it's kind of like an escape from prison kind of a thing. But yeah, it was a wild ride.
Well, I can also tell from the way you talk about it that stepping in as a VP, and maybe there was a climb there, but that
Oh, yeah.
experience with active duty passive income gave you a little bit of a soft landing, right? You were within another bubble, and you have this real estate that you're growing on the side, but you're also cavalier in that you're building something new, and you're able to try new things and experiment a little bit. So I'm sure there was a degree of learning about you and learning what you're good at and great at, and
Mhm.
trying new tools. And now this next chapter, it's a cool like sequence from like fully institutionalized to moderately institutionalized to like now you're on the free range.
That's right. Moderately institutionalized. Yeah.
was was I guess before we get to what is today, were you dabbling with AI in the sales component of your job?
Yeah. So that's really where I kind of figured it out. And if you just think about the history of what we down here at the user level consider AI, technically it's been around since like 2020, 2021, but that was really high end developers were using it. In the past 2 years, it's really kind of taken off. So I picked it up in like 22, late 22, early 23, and started figuring out, okay, how can I use this in an application process? Like, what are the problems that I have in sales? And one of the big problems I had was, we were at the time spending, at that time spending maybe $1,000 a day. When I left ADPI, we were spending $2,000-$3,000 a day in Meta ads, Facebook and Instagram ads, and we had to qualify these leads, because the product there is it's a digital education product, so you have to qualify the leads and then you got to book them on a sales call. Well, that's a lot. When you have that many leads coming in, you have a problem, right? So you either hire human beings to, setters to do all of this qualification, and you're managing people and they're around the world and it's all this stuff. Well, I started dabbling in building pretty much like bots, right? That would do all the qualification, and I was building and I was tweaking and I was doing this, and it worked. And in the time, I spent some time over in Europe, and I was still kind of doing this and optimizing the sales team and running the sales floor and all of that. Well, when we had moved back to the US, we landed in Charlotte, and that's where we wanted to be in North Carolina. And my wife and I started a house flipping company. So I kind of took the same mentality and I was like, okay, well, AI really helped me over here. How can I use it to qualify the leads of, people trying to sell their homes for cash? Because that's that, you got to get those homes at a discount rate. So I was paying for leads. I was qualifying the leads. It was setting appointments. I was showing up. I was offering contracts, and I started getting houses. And so it was kind of the same concept, like, hey, how can I do this? Now, this is where, at this point in the transition, I was like, hey, let's flip these houses. Let's do this thing. Well, that's where the network comes in. So you start going to, RIAs, right? Real estate investment groups or associations and meetings. And in Charlotte, I'm new to Charlotte. I'm going to these meetings and I'm already using, these bots, right? These AI agents to help do this job and make my life more efficient. And I'm going in and I'm talking to all these people. I'm like, yeah, I got this AI thing. It's doing this. And I just assumed that every house flipper was doing this because it was easy.
Right.
And I quickly
Of
learned.
course everyone's doing it.
Yeah, I quickly learned that like no one is doing this. And I was like, okay, this could be an opportunity here. And yeah, and then that was like last September, August, something like that, last summer, and I ended up going to Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny in early December, and that's when if your listeners have been to a Tony event, it's like, all right,
Wake up.
Pardon my French, shit or get off the pot. and that's exactly, so I was building the website for Property Bots while I was at the event, obviously with the help of AI, and built the whole thing and launched it right after that and started getting some traction. And, I set a goal. I was like, hey, because, you and I are both in GoBundance, and, you set your quarterly goals, and I set my quarterly goals. Hey, if I can make more income than I am from, company A than I am in this new venture by the end of Q1, so by the end of March, then I'm gone. proof of concept is there. And I met that mark in, early March, and I just resigned. And I said, I got to go all in. I got to go all in on something I'm passionate about. And that's what I'm doing.
So let's talk vision real fast for someone that hears this story and on the outside, it looks like, oh, Kevin had all the pieces and all the different knowledge and all the things figured out.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you had some vision of what your future looked like, whether it was freedom or being your own boss. Like there was a degree of containment to that vision, I'm sure, with what you did and didn't want. But there wasn't, like, if we go back to military Kevin in the Air Force, if I went back in time and said, hey, no, like, what do you want? I don't think you would have been like, not just because it wasn't out, but I don't think you would have been like, hey, I'm going to be an AI because that's what I'm all excited about.
I'm going to be a software. I'm going to own a software company.
like
I would tell you, like, yeah, you're out of your mind. Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said for getting your perspective on how this progressively happened with just a sequence of small baby steps exploring versus like a dramatic chapter change that it looks like on the outside. Because on the outside, if you haven't been through this, it looks like you punctuated chapter 2, folded over, and then AI was born into your chapter 3. But what was that actually like? Would you call it exploration? Would you call it practice or playing or tinkering? Like, what's happening behind the scenes during this change?
Yeah, I think there's a philosophy that I kind of live my life by, and even when I was in the military, when I was in college, and before then, and I've always been a very curious person, and I've always said, like, hey, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to learn about it, and I'm going to, if I'm going to dedicate myself to something, then I am going to stay and stick with that something until I'm no longer learning something new, until I get stagnant, and then I can apply those lessons to something that I can control. Because in wealth and freedom and all of this stuff, it's not about owning everything, it's about controlling everything. It's controlling the things in your life, right? So that was kind of my thing. I was like, okay, well, it's not to sound selfish, not to be like, oh, what's in it for me kind of a thing, but even when I was at other companies and in the Air Force, and I was constantly trying to figure out, okay, what skills am I learning that I can apply, and what skills, not only that, what skills do I need to learn? Like what is not in my bucket right now that I think would be really, really helpful? And that's where, I'm super grateful for my time at Active Duty Passive Income, because I was able to develop very, very advanced sales skills. And sales is one of the things, like, had I known this, thinking back on it now as weirdly enough, as a meteorologist in the Air Force where I was briefing people all the time, I was kind of having to convince them, right? So it is kind of like sales, but I didn't have like a product that, I was convincing them that my forecast was more accurate than their iPhone. Which at the time it was. I don't know about right now. I'm a little rusty, but that's it was always this influence play, right? And then I, start selling actual $10, $12, $15,000 products and managing teams that sell these. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I get it. You start learning these neuro-linguistic pathways, and you start doing this advanced training, and that kind of figured out. And then as AI hit the block, I started thinking, like, dang, this is a really valuable skill. So let me learn about it. And that desire to add that tool to my tool belt fueled my curiosity. And while I was working at ADPI, they were happy enough to have me play, like you said, tinker with these AI things, because it's making the company money. It's not a detriment, to the company. So I'm able to go and really fuel that curiosity and test on thousands of different leads and really build, like, hey, this works, this doesn't work. Maybe I join this mastermind and learn about this, maybe do this. And when I had enough, I don't know, confidence, I guess, where I was like, hey, yeah, I get this. Let me integrate it into my own business. Oh, hey, this works. Now let's put it into other people's businesses.
Yeah, I love the progression where you're also de-risking, right? By
yeah.
I think that's an important part of selling. I think that's an important part of building a business. Also, an important part of transition is de-risk. People think that entrepreneurs are like the most like jump off the cliff types, and
Yeah.
I'd say, knowing as many as I do, most of us are incredibly risk averse.
calculated risk. I think there's like like you said, the people think we're like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, but we're more like we're taking these calculated risks where, you know, a peer might say, "Oh my God, why would you do that? You're giving up your healthcare and you're this." And to me, it's like I tell people, like with AI, people who ask me like, "Oh, will this property bot, will this thing work?" And I was like, "Listen, imagine you're trying to get into college and you're taking the SATs. I have the answers to the test. I know it's going to work. I know you're going to get into the school of your dreams, right?" And it's so that's why I kind of like compare it to like using AI in your business today. It's like legal cheating. It's like a cheat
I agree
code,
with that.
you know?
Totally agree. Yeah. I've
So
been using
yeah,
it
it's
a
like,
lot. So I definitely agree with that. Here's what comes up when I think of selling and your lessons there. Now you're going out and selling a solution that you know works, which is not uncommon in business. But are you also articulating a vision for possible prospects, not just of the use of your product, but for like where we go in our relationship with AI? Like, are you casting a big vision of what you want to build and articulating a dream to them that's totally different than what they know?
yeah, well, I mean, the truth of the matter is that you know, for my business, we're B2B, right? So we're dealing with, you know, small business owners and other business owners and entrepreneurs and things like that. And in today's day and age, I mean, very, very few business owners have found a way to integrate AI into their operations where it's actually driving revenue. You know, like you have a lot of people who are like, yeah, let me have it write this email for me or do something. And hey, listen, that's totally cool. You're going to save some time. Your people are going to save some time. Time is our greatest commodity on this planet and in this world. And you should be doing that. But what is your AI doing autonomously to help you physically drive revenue? And that's one of the like the main principles of my business when I started this is like, how can I help people do this? Because I figured it out. How can I help them do it? And the fun thing about AI is it's constantly growing. So if you're a business owner and you're listening to this and you're thinking like, dang, I feel overwhelmed. I get it. You know, you're not alone. But the best thing that you can do is just start and answer that question. What can I do? Like what process, what is the biggest bottleneck in my sales funnel right now? How can I have AI solve it? That's the question. And you want to know the greatest part? You can literally ask AI and it will tell you.
But is there resistance from old school types? Is there resistance from the way it's always been done, where you have to almost like pitch them not on your solution, but on the application theory?
Yeah, I mean, there's always resistance. You know, this is a new business. You know, new frontier in you know, it's artificial intelligence, right? So there's always going to be resistance. I think, you know, the clients that I'm working with now have been around AI long enough to know that it's not going anywhere and it's only growing. And you know, this is just the beginning. I kind of tell people, I was like, hey, listen, y'all, this is 2012 Bitcoin. Like, you know, this is you know, get in now. And the folks that do get in, they're going to take a massive competitive advantage over their competition, like in their market and whatever business that they're in. Now, obviously, for us at PropertyBots, we're niched down into, you know, real estate investors and home service companies, and you know, we've been helping syndicators and commercial real estate people and all that. But real estate, right? Like that's our thing. And the reason that's because that's what I know. You know, I know real estate, so I'm going to be able to help there. But yeah, that's, you know, finding not only the passion and all of that, but the just the sheer applicability of this to fuel what you want to do. It's out there, and it's just, I think you kind of hit it earlier. It's just playing and tinkering. Like that is a great first step in all of this.
What do you say to, so let's focus on your solution, then I want to think about AI
Sure.
more broadly. Tell us what you're doing, what you're building, and like what's it do?
Mhm.
And then I want to know like how you do that. How do you build that? So
Yeah,
what's it
yeah,
do?
yeah.
And then how do you build it?
Yeah, so you know, flashbacking back to when I was at Date with Destiny, I came up with the name PropertyBots, right? PropertyBots.ai is what we do. And essentially, what we do is we help business owners in the real estate space optimize their front end sales funnel. And the one, like the overall thesis of the company, I kind of mentioned like something earlier, but really the overall thesis of the company, the one problem that I'm trying to solve, because, if any business owner or prospective entrepreneur listening to this podcast, one tidbit, you don't start a business to make money. You start a business to solve a problem, right? And add value and live in abundance, right? That's how the money will come, trust me. So the one problem that I saw the most in our industry was speed to lead, especially in for wholesalers and real estate brokers and like I said, there's home service companies and commercial real estate folks doing different things. So if you're familiar with Alex Hormozy, Alex, when he set up acquisitions.com at the time, he had hundreds of companies and he had access to all the data, and he ran a whole study, and his study boiled down into one quote that is really the thesis of my business. If you can get your speed to lead to less than 60 seconds, your sales will increase 391%. You get your speed to lead. So from the moment someone goes to your website, fills out a form, to someone from your company talking to them, to less than 60 seconds, your sales will go up 391%. Now, it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense logically, right? Like, hey, someone has intent to buy whatever you're selling, and you go and say, yeah, here you go. This is how you do it. That makes total sense. Yeah, hi, I'm here. So how does AI solve that problem? Well, what I started doing was I was building conversational AI bots via text and voice. So I started going down these rabbit holes of building and prompt engineering and understanding how voice AI technology works and using all these different platforms and then connecting it all together into kind of a SaaS, right? A software as a service. And what we ended up with is really a full suite of what I call AI agents or employees that come into your business and optimize your front end sales funnel with, instant speed to lead. So how this works in practice is, let's say you're, I don't know, pick a real estate career, like something.
Ooh, lovely. I sell, let's say commercial spaces for restaurants.
Okay. Commercial spaces for restaurants, right? So you got commercial spaces for restaurants. Maybe you got, what's that website where you post all the commercial deals on? I'm totally blanking right now. The one that everyone goes to and they say like deals go to die in the commercial space. It's not like Zillow. It's like the Zillow for, anyway. Yeah, exactly. LoopNet. You got LoopNet going, right? You're a broker, right? You got LoopNet going. Leads are coming in. They want to do your commercial space. Well, okay, cool. So lead comes in, maybe they go to your website, they fill out a form, maybe they interact with this ad on LoopNet and a form gets filled out. Well, maybe they fill out that form because they're looking at like 8 p.m. Well, are you going to get back to them at 8 p.m.? Probably not. You're probably putting the baby to bed, or you're eating dinner with your spouse or doing something, right? You're not glued to your phone or your computer. Well, imagine having the moment a form gets submitted, they get a phone call. They get a call. And it says, hey, it's Alex here from Aaron's Commercial Real Estate. I saw you're interested in renting our restaurant space on 123 Main Street. Is it okay if I ask you a couple questions? And they answer all the questions. It's qualifying them based on custom qualification questions that you customize into your property bot that we build for you, essentially, right? You tell us, we build it. And then let's say, for example, the person on the phone, they're like, I don't want to talk to this robot thing, and they hang up. Okay, that's okay. The text bot follows up within 60 seconds. It says, hey, it's Hannah here from Aaron's Property Solutions. And I saw you were talking to Alex. I have a couple more questions for you. Is it okay if I ask those for you right now? The moment they respond, the AI kicks off, asks the questions that weren't already answered, right? It's not going to ask the questions. It knows, it has a memory. It knows what was asked and answered, right? And it's going to then say, well, why don't we book a walkthrough of this space? So then you, Aaron, wake up the next morning with an appointment on your calendar, walking the space. You don't have to do any of that qualification, any of that stuff. So you can weed out the people who are tire kickers. You can weed out the people who aren't qualified. And then you can, fill up your calendar or your salespeople's calendars with qualified appointments that all you have to do is go and close. And that's what you do best. that's the true power of AI. And something that's really, really powerful. We measured our Q1 stats. In Q1, we made our clients $400,000.
Nice.
And
Woo-hoo.
it's only growing from there, right? Yeah, exactly. Because we're able to automate a lot of this front end stuff where they're not having to go back. But a lot of these conversations, I mean, you text with people and sometimes people don't get back to you and all of this stuff. Sometimes these conversations last hours. Well, you're saving all of that time and you're able to go then focus on other aspects of your business, or your people are able to do more critical thinking tasks or do something where they're not glued to a phone and having to handle all of this, all of this stuff. So the 1-2 punch of voice and text, and then we can also build stuff for DMs. We build stuff for your website. We build stuff that reactivates all of your old leads in your CRM and sends them text messages and says, "Hey, a while back you were interested about renting a restaurant. We have one. You want to come check it out?" Qualifies them, books appointments. So many different ways to attack the leads and make your business more efficient so that you can focus on what matters. And like I said, what we do at PropertyBots is we help use AI to help you drive revenue and solve that speed to lead problem. Our speed to lead is less than 18 seconds. And it's dynamic. It's changing. It's not a boring automated message. Like, I talked to a prospective client earlier today, and I asked him, he's a contractor and they do home renovations and ADUs, and they build the accessory dwelling units and stuff. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, like, just ballparking, what's your speed to lead?" He's like, "I don't know, at least 24 hours. I was like, 24 hours? Well, you know that person who wants an ADU built in their backyard, they're just not clicking on your website. They're going down to all 5 of those top Google websites and they're filling out forms." So like, it's kind of like the Ricky Bobby theory. If you ain't first, you're last. So how can you use AI to be first and top of mind with these people, get the estimate, get the quote, get the business? And that's all, that's what we do.
I love it. I love all of that. The idea that you could make it personal too is really significant. What I'm curious about, I don't want to know your secret sauce. What I want to know though is, like, you're not a software person and you built this. So for someone that's listening, that's like, "Oh man, I love what Kevin's doing and I want to get Kevin in on it," they'll just call Kevin, please. Bypass me, just call Kevin. But for someone that's adjacent in a totally different industry, or is like, "Man, should I be looking into this?" You have developed a proficiency high enough to where you can offer it as a service and it be your business. Most people, they don't need to start another business for AI, right? They don't need to abandon what they're doing and build an AI company, but they can get started on this. And I'm curious to know how you got good enough at this to be able to build your own company.
Well, they say everything. What is it? Seth Curry missed 10,000 times before he was able to, whatever, and 3-point shots and all that. It's all practice. It's you just gotta consistently practice and use, and then be in the know. And I'm a big believer in, I am not, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like, "I invented this myself" and all of this. I stand on the shoulders of giants, not just Tony Robbins, but Jeff Woods as well, who wrote an incredible book, AI, the AI driven leader. It's fantastic. And we both heard him speak in Scottsdale, and it was just really, really powerful. But yeah, I mean, joining masterminds and being around people who are doing it, and then practicing every single day in this stuff is just how you can get started. And I think this trips me. This gives me a laugh all the time. It's like, people are like, "Oh yeah, but like, you got to pay for ChatGPT and Claude and all this stuff." It's like, all right, guys, it's $20 a month. Like, ROI should not be like, return on investment should not be like $20 a month to have access to potentially like your best friend who has read 200 million books, has a photographic memory, and can recall everything instantaneously to help you out and solve literally any problem that you might have.
Yeah,
$20 a month.
Taking the Chipotle once a month.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on. like what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, to get started, it's really just about, I'm a big, maybe I'm, everyone talks about ChatGPT and OpenAI. I'm a big Claude and Anthropic kind of a guy. So I think Claude for all of my text-based agents. We use Claude. It's more conversational. It's just I think it's a little bit better for what I do. For my voice AI agents, I use a mixture of Gemini, Flash. I use Claude sometimes, but I'll use ChatGPT 4.0 for that because it just depends. How you want the voice AI agent to sound. Do you want it to be more verbose? Do you want it to be more conversational? Do you want you got to tweak all of these things. But just getting out there and just trying and using these platforms, and the more you build it, the better you'll become. I mean, this morning I spent, I don't know, an hour and a half, and I built an entire agent for a prospective client in the self-storage industry. They wanted someone to pick up the phones after hours and sell self-storage units. And I was like, okay, cool, I can build that for you. I sent that to him while he's at a conference. He booked a call. We'll see where it goes. I don't know. But if I was just getting started, obviously, the first voice agent, it took me 3 or 4 days of 10-hour days figuring it out. But it's repetition, Yeah,
I gave a presentation on Monday about vision, and the disclaimer that usually kicks off all of our workshops is that most people think of vision as this design work of what you want. And it's meant to motivate you, and you look at it in the morning and you're like, rah, I feel great. So like you do after you leave a Tony event.
Yeah.
And the way we use it is as a tactical roadmap to figure out what actions you need to take, what do you need to shed, what do you need to say no to, those kinds of things. So we use it as a decision-making criteria. And in the process of talking about it, someone asked me well, I can see my vision, but how do I know that the steps I'm taking will get me there? And it's a cart before the horse kind of problem. And I think this exists in AI a lot too, where I don't know how to build a chatbot agent. I don't know how to automate things in AI yet, but I certainly won't ever figure that out if I just sit on my hands and wait until I do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an interesting story I'm hearing with the way that you share this, that this has largely been like art, where you're painting and probably your painting doesn't really look that great. And then you paint again and you paint again and you paint and you play and you paint and you play. And over time, you've gotten really good at designing AI bots. But if I rewinded 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, 2 years, 3 years, it probably was much more elementary. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, before AI driven bots, I was using a tool called ManyChat. And ManyChat, if your listeners are tech savvy, remember those things that would pop up on websites. You go to a website.
Hey, how can I help you with the little
but it would be like the little bubble, and you'd select. So you would select, and then based on what you selected in the bubble, it would go to another response. That was like the early chat bot, if you will. And then AI came along, and you're able to actually have a real conversation with it, and it's dynamic and it's changing, and it's not requiring you to go down a certain path and like a decision tree situation. But yeah, I mean, all of this was born out of solving a problem. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Your listeners, or if you're running a business right now and you're like, well, I just want to grow my business. Yeah, that's what you should be doing, and there's, services like mine and others if you want to integrate AI and do all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean you have to remain complacent and borderline ignorant of what AI can do for you. Because what I do is a very my comparison is like SEAL Team 6. We are special forces. We are going in and we are solving one very specific problem, right? Like speed to lead and the things I talked about. But you can use AI for anything. I mean, I used AI to find a recipe. I had a pounded ground turkey and I was like, man, I never have ground turkey. Let me see what I got. I made a delicious meal last night, And yeah, of course I could Google it too, but then you got to go and sit through, scroll through all the stupid ads, it just spit it out for me. And I was like, you know what? That sounds pretty good. Cooked it. Not so bad.
Aside from Jeff Wood's book, AI Driven Leader, if I'm a business owner that wants to get AI incorporated in my business and recognizes that it's powerful, but I don't want to be the person to do that, is it just outside vendors that come in and help? What's that world starting to look like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it depends how quickly you want to do this. Like for a lot of if you look at the Fortune 500, they're spending millions of dollars, on integrating. Jeff Woods himself is a consultant to Fortune 500 companies and using AI and all of that stuff. So he's helping the leadership think about it, and then they're coming up with plans to integrate it at the small business level where you and I live. It's a lot more agile. So how quickly do you want that solution? And what is it going to be worth to you? And I think that's really the big question that people have in anything, right? And not just sales, but like in anything. If life is just a series of frames and influencing each other to do whatever it is one person wants, then the other person wants, it's kind of this push pull frame thing. Then with AI, it's like, okay, well, is this worth it? Is this going to be worth whatever it costs to do it? So think about your business. If you're a business owner and you're listening to this right now, think about it. You have leads coming in, right? How much is a closed lead worth to you? Okay, so of a closed lead, if you're in, a lot of our clients are wholesalers in real estate. Some of these closed leads are worth $15,000, $20,000, $30,000. Okay, great. That's awesome. So if you do that, and if I go and tell you that our system has proven itself to book 30% more appointments than you had previously, and that could lead to an extra 3 to 4 more closed leads a month, is it worth it to you?
Mathematically, the answer would be a resounding yes.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so what it comes down to, it's just it's not like I don't want to be one of those guys that's like wearing a black turtleneck and walking across the stage and saying this is the future, but it kind of is, So it's like kind of is.
Yeah, in my day to day, I'm starting to see more and more of it have utility.
Mm-hmm.
I had inputted everything that was in my fridge and did something similar. Like, okay, what can I make?
Mm-hmm.
I had a brunch that I hosted on Saturday, and I was like, okay, I've got 12 people coming. What are 4 things that I could make that would appease, a wide array of people and be easy to make, and then make a shopping list. And then there's a lot of really cool applications to it. And I feel like because it is in an echo chamber of business owners, it's talked about a lot, but outside of there, it's not. It feels like a new frontier, right? We're all buzzing about it as business owners and people that are in entrepreneur communities, but the rest of the world is still skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like I'm in this terrain where anything can go, and it's the Wild West, and people are making money on it, and people are selling it, and there's snake oil salesmen all over. So I've had to be somewhat reserved about, well, how does it work for us? And lately I've been asking this question. I can't predict where it's going to be in 5 years. I'm certainly not qualified for that.
Mm-hmm.
What I can visualize is that in 5 years, it's a big part of my business and a big part of my life. And that visualization, I think, is really important because I can't triangulate what it's going to look like or how powerful it's going to be, but I know it's going to be a part of that. And because I know it's going to be a part of that, I have to get started today. That's how we use vision with our clients too, is if it fits in your business up there, then it belongs in your practice today. How do you see 5 years from now? Do you try to figure out and wrangle where it's going to be? Does that matter to you? Or are you disconnected?
No, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm disconnected. I do agree with you on that 5-year horizon as far as just general adoption, and that's among small business. So kind of what I feel and on this subject is that I believe that in the next, 12 to 24 months, maybe 36 months, if you call a business and you're waiting on hold, you're going to be pissed. If you're not getting an instantaneous pickup from an AI voice agent that can handle every single thing that you have flawlessly, you're going to be like, gosh, dang, I gotta wait on hold. Like, what is this, 1995? I was talking to a buddy the other day and I was like, remember that clip of when Katie Couric and the rest of the Today Show back in 1999, and they were sitting around the thing and they were like, what is this thing about the internet that I'm hearing about? The World Wide Web. That's where we are right now. So imagine where Yeah, like imagine how fast it's growing, and it's growing even faster than the internet. But it's going to take time for people to adopt. So if you're listening to this and you're like just overwhelmed and your palms are sweating and you're like, crap, I missed the boat. You didn't. This is like the first inning, of it all. Yeah. So just like you said, get started and do something in that realm, and it'll be helpful. But like, yeah, I mean, I think that it's going to take about 5 years for kind of businesses to fully adopt, and then people to really understand AI and be using it. Not just business owners, but like people in general to be using it. And I'm a big believer in just starting ugly. Like, sure, you have two options. You can wait 5 years until other innovators out there make a tool that's super easy for you to just, do it, or you can kind of slug through it and get learn. It's about a skill, like learn a new skill. Like, and this is an extremely valuable skill to learn, because if it's not valued by other people, then it's not valuable. So if other people don't know about it or they're reluctant to learn it, it instantly has value. So you can learn it. And the great thing is it's really quite easy.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of value I've gotten out of not even the output of the AI, but learning how to ask the question better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I hear resoundingly like the prompt is what drives your outcomes. And whether you're a leader or you're a manager or you're a visionary, the ability to communicate what you want is the difference between getting what you want and getting something else.
Oh yeah.
Because if I can't communicate it well, I'm certainly not going to get it. And it's been a cool lesson to like play and figure out like, oh, I did not ask that question well. Or, hey, here's a prompt. And I'm like, well, that is not at all what I asked. Oh, no, it actually is what I asked. I just didn't ask what I wanted. So it's been kind of cool to play with all those things. I'm getting better. And as a guy that asks questions for a living, it's pretty fascinating to test my mettle. Let's do this. What are like 3 like tips if someone is just starting to play with AI? 3 tips that would get them active or they can use to get started, and then we'll start to taper this thing down.
Yeah. So number one, I kind of mentioned it earlier. Just pick an LLM, a large language model, and just run with it. Whether it's Claude, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, pay the $20 a month so you get access to the full version or whatever. It'll be okay. It's $20 lunch,
Yeah.
Right?
Don't be
And
cheap.
yeah,
Buy it.
exactly. So that's kind of tip number one. Tip number 2 is you mentioned it earlier, Aaron, about prompt engineering. It's really powerful to understand how to prompt these things, and these large language models. Really, what they are kind of the processors, right? So when you dig more into AI and its applicability and how to use it, you'll learn that even though the large language model is your best friend who's read 200 million books and all this stuff, it doesn't have the context about your business necessarily. It only has the context of what you tell it. So it's only as powerful as the data that lies over top of it, right? So tip number 2 would be, don't be afraid to give it a knowledge base. When you're prompting your large language model and you have a task or a project that you want it to help you out with, tell it to go and reference your website. Tell it to go and or attach, your SOPs or your employee handbook or whatever. Give it the tools it needs to answer questions specific to you and your business or whatever you're trying to get it figured out.
That's a great tip. Yeah.
And then
add more context for sure.
More context, exactly. And then tip number 3, obviously you want to tell it a task and you want to give it context like we talked about. Those are obvious when you're kind of doing this prompt. Give it a role. Tell it, I want you to be a chief marketing officer. I want you to be an astrophysicist. I want you to be a Michelin star chef. I want you to be, it's read every cookbook on planet Earth. Like it knows how to flambe something. And I don't even know if that's a word.
I like it. Sounds French.
I like it. Yeah, it sounds French. Right. Like but I want you to be A lot of the ones that I use in my business are like, hey, I want you to be a chief marketing officer, or you're an expert copywriter, or you're, what is one that I used? One use case that I was doing a big presentation in front of a large group of business owners about property bots, and I fed it my entire presentation, the slide deck essentially, right? And I said, I want you to review this and pretty much grade me on the presentation, and it gave me a bunch of tips on like how to improve it, and then and so have it, you call it the challenger, right? Have it challenge you. And also the most valuable one that I use like almost every day is when I'm doing one of these prompts in the task, I always say, after I said something effective like, hey, I want you to help me, I don't know, I want you to help me write an email series on, I'm just making this up, on how property bots can be effectively used in self-storage facilities, and reference the context below, blah, 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 and interview me one question at a time to gather more context about the topics, and then provide me non-obvious solutions in your copywriting. And then you give it a tone and a role and all this stuff. And it's amazing what it spits out. And all you got to do is just play with it. And you'll find it's quite addicting. First, you're going to be like, dang, I didn't think about that. And then you're going to be like, huh, what else can it do? And then you're going to be like, crap, why haven't I been using this earlier?
Yeah, what have I been doing?
It's like this train of just like, oh man, like,
yeah.
But yeah,
I love those.
Yeah. Hopefully that
helps. I also feel like the things that have come best, I love those tips. Those are great tips. So if you're listening, make sure you use those. Those are magical from Kevin. The thing that I've also learned along my utility curve is that like the answer you get doesn't have to be the answer you stay with.
Sure.
Right. It'd be like if I was like, hey Kevin, like, what's your, I don't know, your favorite color? And you're like blue. And I'm like, okay, I like that answer, but like, let's not use a primary color. You're like, all right, cerulean. And I'm like, whoa, that's okay. That's interesting. I don't even know what that means. What does cerulean mean? Oh, okay. And you can kind of steer like it's almost like a kid and trying to get a kid to give you a better answer. Like, don't just stop at answer number one. And it's been really fun to play with this thing as though I can kind of coach it to give me the answers that I want. And then remarkably, the more I use it, the more it gives me the answers that I want. Like it's coachable. It's so cool.
Yeah. And it's learning, and that's the crazy thing is the more people that utilize this, the more it learns and it refines, and it's we're on our way to iRobot.
Yeah, dude. Oh, yeah.
The plot line.
Yeah, there's a whole extra conversation you and I can have about what happens when this is a thing, right?
Yeah, when it's doing your dishes and your laundry in your house. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for someone that wants to learn about property bots or maybe reach out to you and learn more about the application beyond just a linear real estate investor, where do they go? How do they find you?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you're in the real estate space, you're whether you're a home service company that you own, or you have your real estate broker, or you're a real estate investor, and you just have a lot of high leads coming in, and you're kind of struggling there, just go to www.PropertyBots.ai, and there'll be a big button there you can demo. And when you demo our voice technology. It's really easy. You just put your name and your phone number in, and it'll call you, and you have a full-on conversation with the voice AI assistant. And it's going to ask you some really great questions. It's going to allow you to get some input. You can also demo our text. And guess what? It's the same thing. It's going to instantly text you. It's going to ask you about your business, and then it's going to come up with qualifying questions and things to think about. And it's all AI driven and dynamic. So it's really, really powerful. And honestly, it's a lot of fun, So you just check it out, and then you can always book while you're there, the AI is going to, have you book a conversation with me if you want to talk more about it. And I'm an open book. Like I believe in abundance first. And if you just want to learn about it, I'll have a conversation with you and we'll learn about it together.
I'd say take Kevin up on this offer, because the last 6 months watching what he's been building and what he's been creating. Not only is he passionate about it, but you can tell that he is playing with AI at a quantity that's just more reps. It is the Steph Curry model of just shoot more baskets and all of a sudden everything looks easy. So it looks easy on the outside. He's put in the work. I respect and appreciate that. PropertyBots sounds awesome. I'll have to figure out ways to implement a similar strategy in what we do. But Kevin, man, this is great. I love the tips. I love the idea of seeing your chapters unfold and learning how to inch by inch improve upon the model that you've had from the last chapter. So, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, if there's any prompt that I would have, if you're in the game of real estate, I don't care what your niche is. If you're playing that game, talk to Kevin. So jump on. I love the show don't tell model. Right, it's not a big sales page. Just see what it's like. I love that. I think we could all learn from something like that. And I'm really excited for what's ahead for you, dude. Sounds like the sky's the limit.
Yeah, awesome, man. As long as I don't have to play that like ice hockey ball thing in Tahoe with you, I'm good. What was that thing called?
Broom ball.
Broom ball. Yeah. Screw that.
Yeah. Any game but broom ball.
Any game but broom ball. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you again for being here, guys. Pay attention to Kevin. If you love this, drop me a comment. We'd love to know what you learned today or how you plan to leverage AI. It's got a big future in our world, obviously in Kevin's too, and possibly yours. If your vision does not include AI, it might be time to upgrade yours so that it does, and so that your action today mirrors that kind of future. If you need help building your vision, check out www.living.vision to learn more about what we're doing. Otherwise, stay tuned to the podcast, drop us a review. We'll see you on the next one.